A Nightmare on Elm Street is one of the greatest franchises in all of horror. From its phenomenal leads to its nightmare-inducing villain, there are few series that have left the mark that Elm Street has. But with technically 9 movies, it can be a bit overwhelming for a new viewer. So if this is your first time, or you're just wanting a recap, join us as we tell you what the f you need to know about the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. The story of Elm Street is a simple one. Freddy Krueger is a child murderer who attacks teenagers in their dreams. He terrorizes several people, and it results in them fighting back and eventually vanquishing the Dream Demon. Despite its rather fantastical elements, this franchise firmly resides in the slasher category. So all the tropes you'd expect are all present here. A final girl, or boy, a near indestructible being killing teens, adults being absolutely useless, and kill after kill after kill. But what Elm Street really excels at is taking a character and making them go crazier and crazier as they get less and less sleep and more people around them keep dying.
Sorry, kids. I don't believe in fairy tales.
Famed horror director Wes Craven came up with the idea for Elm Street after reading several articles in the 1970s about refugees who refused to go to sleep due to trauma and the awful nightmares that would follow, eventually causing them to die. There was one case in particular about a young boy who refused to go to sleep, even hiding away the sleeping pills that his parents were giving him. They even found an old coffee pot in his closet, which would later be used in Elm Street. This caused Craven to go down the rabbit hole of figuring out why someone would do that to themselves. And that's when a certain dream demon entered the foray. While most killers and slashers would be shackled to the real world, Freddy was able to reach his victims in their dreams. He torments them and uses their worst fears against them. Freddy Krueger has reached the upper echelon of horror that very few have, and it's because of how damn great he is throughout the entire series. Whether it's his terrifying start, his quipping one-liners, or his return to the dark side, there's always something to latch onto when it comes to Fred Krueger. And so much of that falls on the shoulders of Robert Englund. Without his performance, it's unlikely we would have gotten the behemoth that the franchise would eventually become. And yeah, Jackie Earle Haley played the role in the remake, but it really doesn't work, like at all. Both because of the lazy script and his almost exact use of his voice from Watchmen, it just really didn't land. Plus, I mean, who the hell approved this makeup job? But who exactly is Fred Krueger? Craven originally modeled him after an elderly man that he had seen as a child. The man's gaunt features and fedora always stood out to him, so when it came to creating Krueger, he drew from his nightmares. Fred Krueger has terrorized the town of Springwood, Ohio for years, and he is pretty much instantly recognizable. His red and green sweater, the beaten fedora, and burnt skin are simply appetizers for the main course. His handmade bladed glove for slicing up his victims. Everything about his appearance evokes fear. Even the specific shade of red and green were chosen by Craven because of a psychological discomfort the colors caused when placed next to each other. Then there's all the one-liners he has.
Hey Dylan, ever played Skin the Cat?
Hell, we featured a ton in this video and we still haven't even scratched the surface. Just like his creative kills, from being eaten by a bed to being puppeted like a marionette, and even getting funky with a Nintendo Power Glove. Freddy always seems to have creative ways to kill. And sure, his makeup definitely goes through some changes over the years, but it's instantly recognizable the moment you see it.
Whatever you do, don't fall asleep.
Let's do a quick run through of what exactly went on in these Elm Street movies.
Come to Freddy.
First up, we had A Nightmare on Elm Street in 1984. In the beginning, we follow Tina as she's being haunted by this burnt and terrifying man in her dreams, Freddy Krueger. They pull a nice little Marion Crane and Psycho on us and kill off Tina early, only for us to follow our actual lead, Nancy. She goes down a journey of discovery where she finds out more about Krueger and how to stop him. Which of course she does. Or does she? This is the basic structure for every Elm Street film from here on out. But there's something extra special about this first one. It's terrifying and features some of the coolest moments in the whole series. Genuinely one of the greatest horror movies of all time.
You are all my children now.
Just the next year in 1985, we received A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, Freddy's Revenge. A new family's moved into Nancy's old house at 1428 Elm, including young Jesse. And we have our male lead. He starts having some crazy dreams, and Kruger starts to take over Jesse's body. He eventually takes him over completely and comes into the real world. It's a misstep in damn near every conceivable way, but it features some truly hilarious moments which can only be described as, well, pretty gay. Check out Scream Queen on Shudder if you want to find out even more about that, because it's fascinating. A Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors released in 1987 and was set mostly at a teen mental hospital. Kristen is being haunted by Freddy to the point that she gets thrown into the hospital herself. We get a cool story of these teens banding together and becoming the Dream Warriors. It certainly wasn't without its losses though. Oh, and we get Nancy back, who is now a sleep specialist and gets to counsel the teens. Unfortunately, her story is brought to a definitive close, but Freddy is super defeated. Yep, not gonna hear from that guy for a long time.
How sweet. Fresh meat.
Just 1 year later, in 1988, A Nightmare on Elm Street 4 The Dream Master started setting up more and more continuity. Freddy yet again comes back, but this time it was from a dog pissing fire onto his bones. Yeah, really sets up how crazy this movie gets. Then they decided to kill off all the remaining characters from the prior film, including a very different looking Kristen. We've got a new lead, and her name is Alice, who can control dreams with the best of them. It keeps with the structure of one person losing everyone around them until they can finally best Freddy.
It's a boy!
1989's A Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child, finally brings about a new concept. The film's former lead Alice is pregnant, and therefore Freddy gets constant access to Alice through her sleeping baby. Other than that, it still follows the same Elm Street formula we've seen time and time again. You'll hear that a lot. This is definitely where the series starts showing some fatigue, but there's still plenty of fun to be had. We're just well past the days of the original.
Oh, yeah. Great to be back in business.
Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare came to us in 1991 and was intended to be the end of the franchise. No, really, they even held a funeral for it. It supposes that Freddy had a daughter and tried to explain his dream powers as being something that came from these dream demons. It's dumb, but it does feature interesting ideas like Springwood being barren of children because Freddy has killed them all. The movie was even released in 3D, which became obvious when Freddy's offed. It's truly awful.
Hey Dylan, ever played Skin the Cat?
1994's New Nightmare is where the series really excels in its originality. While this meta approach has been done time and time again, at the time it felt so fresh and original. In this movie, the Elm Street series exists, and the film's original star, Heather Langenkamp, is being terrorized by a dream demon who has taken the form of Freddy Krueger. It's visceral and harder hitting than any of the other sequels. They even bring back a bunch of the franchise actors in a funeral scene.
The only thing to fear is fear himself.
In 2003, we finally received the matchup that had been rumored for years, with Freddy versus Jason. The tone of that movie is more Looney Tunes than either Elm Street or Friday the 13th, but it's definitely an entertaining ride. Make sure you're also caught up on the filmography of Jason Voorhees for maximum enjoyment.
Did you know that after the heart stops beating, the brain keeps functioning for well over 7 minutes? We got 6 more minutes to play.
Finally, in 2010, A Nightmare on Elm Street was rebooted and followed a very similar story to the original. Unfortunately, it's easily the worst in the entire series and doesn't work in any way whatsoever. They try and suppose that maybe Freddy was a good guy and that the children had falsely accused him. It is such a colossally dumb angle to take for a character that's so established, because the twist that, oh wow, he's actually a bad guy, doesn't quite hit as hard. We obviously know that. We've now seen 9 films where he doesn't have a shred of good in him. And that's the Freddy that he needs to be, not whatever this is. But you're probably asking, Tyler, which of these movies are actually worth my time? Well, let's break it down. As far as essential viewing, A Nightmare on Elm Street, Dream Warriors, and New Nightmare are all perfect. Then, if you're finding yourself with a little more time, Freddy's Revenge, Dream Master, Dream Child, and Freddy vs. Jason are a fun enough time. Then, if you don't really have that much time, you can absolutely skip Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare and the Nightmare reboot because, yeah, there's not a whole lot there for you.
Freddy! Where you hiding at, you burnt-faced pussy?
When it comes to characters, Elm Street does it right. Our leads in the films include Nancy Thompson, Jesse Walsh, Kristen Parker, Alice Johnson, real-life Heather Langenkamp, then a considerably worse Nancy Holbrook. Then I don't even know what's going on with Freddy's Dead. Outside of the remake, which features an absolute abomination of the Nancy character, all of the leads kick ass. Even Mark Patton's Jesse has developed such a following over the years because all the gay overtones in the movie. But it's not just the leads. From Johnny Depp's Glenn to Kincaid and Joey, every movie has a little something in terms of characters that you actually care about. So let's go through all of the important characters from the series, or at least the ones that are worth repeating. Elm Street has some fantastic characters, so this is going to be a long one. Freddy Krueger. Nancy Thompson. Nancy's parents, her mom Marge, and her dad Lieutenant Thompson. Glenn Lance. Tina Gray. Rod Lane.
Hey, up yours with a twirling lawnmower.
Jesse Walsh. Lisa Weber. Ron Grady.
Something is trying to get inside my body.
Yeah, and she's female and she's waiting for you in the cabana.
Kristen Parker. Amanda Kruger. The Dream Warriors themselves. Joey, Will, Philip, Taryn, Jennifer, Kincaid.
Let's go kick the motherfucker's ass all over Dreamland.
Alice Johnson, Rick Johnson, Mark Gray, Dan, Yvonne, Maggie, Carlos.
Yeah, well, the map says we're fucked.
Freddy's father, Heather Langenkamp playing herself, Dylan, Julie the babysitter, even Wes fucking Craven. And yes, I believe that's his official name. And then not a single memorable character from the reboot. Yikes. Ever since the failed reboot in 2010, there have been whisperings of a new film in the franchise. Orphan writer David Leslie Johnson wrote a remake, but according to producer Brad Fuller, development has been slow. Johnson has claimed that it's mostly due to the studio focusing on their very successful Conjuring universe. But before they were able to do anything with the series, the rights reverted back to the Craven estate. While they have taken many different pitches for the material, including one by actor and producer Elijah Wood, nothing has gotten off the ground as of yet. Robert Englund has stated his interest in cameoing in the film, though his desire to play Kruger appears to have diminished, claiming he's just too old for the role. However, that hasn't stopped studio heads like Jason Blum stating that they would actually like to make an Elm Street movie with Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger. So really, who knows what's gonna happen? So whatever the future of Elm Street holds, it may just be doing it with a new dream demon. Englund himself has suggested Kevin Bacon for the role, but with Bacon's age, it likely isn't viable for a long-running franchise. When Englund himself was cast, he was still on the younger side, just playing an older character. Whatever they end up doing, here's hoping they pay some proper homage to the films that came before them, while still providing a fun and original take on the material. We hope you enjoyed this look at the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and let us know what other franchise you need to know about.
Every town has an Elm Street.